Okay, so picture this. It's the end of the month, you just got paid, and you're sitting there looking at your bank account thinking, okay, this time I'm actually going to save something. This time is different. And then 3 weeks later, somehow, inexplicably, the money is just gone. Not gone on anything crazy, not gone on a vacation or a fancy watch, just gone. Groceries, gas, a few takeout orders, that subscription you forgot you had, a birthday gift you couldn't say no to. And you're sitting there again, same place, same feeling, telling yourself, next month I'll do better. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not broken. My name is Ben, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart, hard-working people struggle to hold on to their money. If you're someone who earns a decent income but still feels like you're running on a financial treadmill, moving but not really getting anywhere, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you out, because today we're going to get into something that most financial channels completely skip over. Not just the math of saving money, but why it feels so genuinely difficult, even when you know exactly what you're supposed to do. Here's the thing that frustrates me about most money advice. The standard line is always some version of just spend less than you earn. And look, technically that's true. Nobody is arguing with the math. But if that advice actually worked on its own, we wouldn't have a situation where the average American household carries over $6,000 in credit card debt, according to the Federal Reserve's consumer credit data. We wouldn't have a situation where a 2023 bank rate survey found that 57% of Americans cannot cover an unexpected $1,000 expense from savings alone. These are not people who don't understand basic arithmetic. These are people who are doing something much harder than math. They're trying to make good financial decisions inside a life that is constantly pulling them in the opposite direction. The assumption that saving is simple, that it's just a matter of willpower or discipline, is actually the thing that makes it harder, because when you believe it should be easy and it isn't, you don't look for the real problem. You just blame yourself. You tell yourself you're bad with money. You feel a little ashamed. And then, weirdly, that shame makes you less likely to look at your finances closely, not more. It's a loop. And the first step to breaking it is understanding that saving money is behaviorally hard in a way that has nothing to do with your intelligence or your character. Here's what most people don't realize. The human brain developed most of its core decision-making wiring somewhere between 50,000 and 200,000 years ago, and back then, saving for the future was not a survival strategy. Using resources immediately was. If you found food, you ate it. You didn't store it in a savings account for a rainy day. The psychological term for this is present bias, and it means that your brain genuinely, structurally assigns more value to things you can have right now than to things you'll have later, even when the future thing is objectively better. And this isn't a character flaw, it's how most humans are wired. Researchers at Princeton actually ran studies where they showed people brain scans while making financial decisions. When people were choosing between getting $10 now versus $40 in a month, the part of the brain associated with immediate reward lit up aggressively for the $10 option. It was competing, almost physically, against the rational part of the brain trying to do the math. So when you choose the takeout instead of cooking at home and putting the difference in savings, that's not weakness. That is a 200,000-year-old survival instinct bumping up against a financial system that's only existed for a few hundred years. The instinct didn't lose because it was stupid. It lost because it's stronger than most people give it credit for. Now you might be thinking, okay, Ben, interesting brain science, but I still need to actually save money. Fair. So let's get into the math, because this is where it gets really interesting. Let's say you earn $4,000 a month after taxes. That's roughly a $55,000 to $60,000 annual salary, which is actually pretty close to the median individual income in the U.S. right now. Standard advice says save 20%. That's $800 a month. Sounds simple enough. But now let's look at what's actually happening with that $4,000. Rent or mortgage in a mid-sized city, let's say $1,300. Utilities, phone, internet, probably $250. Groceries for one person, eating reasonably, $400. Transportation, whether that's a car payment, insurance, and gas, or public transit, call it $350. That's already $2,300 gone before you've bought a single coffee, gone to a doctor, paid for any subscriptions, sent money to a family member, dealt with a parking ticket, replaced a broken phone screen, or done anything that resembles having a life. You've got $1,700 left, and the advice is to take $800 of that, nearly half of what remains, and put it away where you can't touch it. That leaves $900 for everything else in your life for an entire month. That's not an abundance mindset problem, that's a margin problem. Most people aren't bad at saving because they lack discipline. They're bad at saving because there is genuinely very little room to work with, and the advice they're given was designed for a financial reality that doesn't match their actual numbers. Let me tell you about something that quietly destroys more savings plans than almost anything else. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's sneaky because it always feels completely justified in the moment. Here's how it works. You get a raise. Let's say your income goes from $4,000 a month to $4,600 a month. That's $600 extra, a real, tangible improvement. And almost immediately, without any conscious decision, things start to shift. You upgrade your apartment because you can finally afford the nicer building. You start going to slightly better restaurants because you've earned it. You get a car payment you didn't have before because, honestly, your old car was embarrassing. You add a streaming service. You start buying better clothes. None of these individually feel irresponsible. Each one feels like a normal, reasonable upgrade for someone at your income level. But collectively, by the time you do the math 6 months later, you're saving roughly the same dollar amount you were before the raise, or sometimes even less. This is lifestyle creep. And the reason it's so powerful is that our spending doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in a social context. You compare yourself to the people around you. When your income rises, your social circle often shifts slightly upward too. And suddenly, what counts as normal spending recalibrates without you even noticing. The fix here isn't to live like a monk. The fix is to make a deliberate decision about what to do with new income before your lifestyle has a chance to absorb it. A simple rule that works for a lot of people is this. When you get a raise, automatically redirect at least half of it to savings before you ever see it in your checking account. The other half you can absolutely enjoy, but that first half disappears into savings before your brain gets a chance to spend it. This is where it gets really interesting, and this is the piece that genuinely changes how people relate to saving. The reason most saving strategies fail is because they rely on you making a good decision repeatedly, every single month, in the face of everything else going on in your life. Work stress, family pressure, a bad week, a good week where you want to celebrate. And every one of those moments is an opportunity for your present bias to step in and find a reason why this month is the exception. The fix is to remove the decision entirely. Automation. Now, before you roll your eyes because you've heard this before, hang with me, because most people set up automation wrong. They transfer money to savings after they've already been paid. That means the money sits in checking for a day or two, and in that window, your brain has already counted it as available spending money. Then, when the transfer happens, it feels like a loss. Instead, set the automation to move money the same day your paycheck hits, before you've opened your banking app, before you've checked your balance, before your brain has registered it as spendable. What you never see, you never miss. This is not a trick. This is working with your psychology instead of against it. Even saving $200 a month automatically, $200 that you route into a high-yield savings account the moment your paycheck drops, adds up to $2,400 in a year. If that account earns 4.5% interest, which is realistic in the current rate environment, you're looking at around $2,508 after 12 months. That's not life-changing on its own, but it's a $2,500 emergency buffer that means the next time your car needs a repair or your dog gets sick, you don't have to reach for a credit card and start paying 20% interest on a problem that cost $400 to fix. Look, here's the thing that most financial education misses completely. Saving money isn't really about money. It's about options. It's about buying yourself the ability to make a choice in the future without being desperate. The person who has $5,000 in savings and loses their job has a completely different experience of that event than the person who has nothing.
Not just financially, emotionally, psychologically, in terms of what decisions they can make and what pressure they're operating under. Savings is basically just future freedom that you're purchasing with present sacrifice. And once you start thinking about it that way, not as deprivation, but as acquisition, the whole thing starts to feel different. Every $100 you put away is not $100 you lost. It's $100 worth of options you've given your future self. That framing shift sounds small, but it actually matters neurologically. When your brain perceives saving as loss, it resists. When it perceives saving as gaining something, future security, future flexibility, future peace of mind, the resistance drops. So here's how to actually start, and I want you to make this boring on purpose. Open a separate savings account, one that is not at your main bank. The slight friction of it being harder to access is genuinely useful. Calculate 5% of your monthly take-home pay, not 20%, not even 10%, just 5%. Set an automatic transfer for that amount to happen the same day you get paid. Do not touch it for 90 days. That's it. That is the whole starting move. The goal for the first 3 months is not to build wealth. It's to prove to yourself that you can do it without your life falling apart. Because most people have a fear, often unconscious, that if they commit money to savings, they'll somehow get caught short. The 90-day test breaks that fear with evidence. After 3 months, if nothing catastrophic happened and you survived on 95% of your income, you can revisit the amount and increase it. But you have to start somewhere that doesn't feel impossible, because the biggest enemy of saving isn't math, it's inaction disguised as waiting until the timing is better. Here's the truth about saving money. It's hard because life is expensive, your brain is wired for the present, and most of the advice out there assumes conditions that don't match reality for most people. But it is not impossible. It gets easier when you stop trying to out-willpower a system that wasn't designed with your psychology in mind, and start designing a system that works around how you actually think and feel. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. You just need to take one small, automated, boring step, and then let time do the work. The version of you a year from now will be very glad you started today. If this video helped reframe anything for you, drop a comment below and tell me which part hit hardest. I read every single one. Hit subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.